Welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host, I was going to write an intro for him, but I cancelled it at the last minute due to inclement weather. What can you do? Dr. Luke Gledall, how are you doing today, Luke?
That's good. I mean, that's pretty apt considering, I'm living in the midst of a polar vortex, coming down from to north, and what a great week to bring it in to talk to you there in the UK, where I can just generally proclaim that the weather in the UK is so mild in comparison, and we're calling off games. So I'm good. How are you,
I
Rich?
remember, is polar vortex a car or is it one of the vaccines?
It's both.
Oh, nice. It's a vaccine delivered by a car. You have to get run over, but you're free of COVID afterwards.
Driven by a polar bear.
Because of the big nose, though, they're constantly pressing the horn. It's really quite antisocial, isn't it?
He's also a bit drunk off Coca-Cola as well, It's just a big thematic disaster.
They get the good stuff up there in the North Pole, don't they? With the cocaine in still.
I mean, it comes with a success rate, which is probably about 80%, which sounds low, but the problem is the rest of 20% of the time, they usually just run you over in the polar vortex. So
it's a small needle in a big car. It's a difficult job, and really not one that should be trusted to a polar bear, not one of the famous driving animals.
You could say it's a needle in a hatchback.
Turtle power.
So while Rich and I just completely hemorrhage with references to something completely out of control, should we get started on this week's podcast, Rich?
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Breaking hoo-hoos.
I mean, let's be honest, breaking hoo-hoos is all we have this week, but we are going to do the best that we can to make a silk purse out of this particular sow's ear. First off, let's have some flagrant speculation about the takeover talk. We had this Sky Sources story midweek that aforementioned advisor Erik Alonso had made a bid for the club, which had been turned down. It was sort of poo-pooed by the local press, wasn't it? Or they sort of said it's not, that Sky had sort of got the wrong end of the stick a little bit. But what do you make of this? What the latest development in a very odd season boardroom wise? What do you think about the this latest?
Why does it have the same weight and same feel as an agent putting out kind of agent talk within the media, such as, we're in the potential race to sign free agent Dele Adebola? Why does it have the same similar feel of a knacker-yard mid-30s striker coming off a decent season 10 years ago, I think it was?
Well, maybe in the same way, Chansiri has said that he's willing to listen to offers, and I do think that there's been no time in living memory where Wednesday wouldn't entertain the potential of signing some, as you say, knackers yard 30-something centre forward. We've played host to a great many of them during our time, often with very miserable results. The details are thin on the ground. We don't really know the size of this. From what we know of Erik Alonso, it's very unlikely to be his own money. If there's any real elements to this, it's very unlikely to be his own money that's involved. So he's sort of a front man for other people that have money, or maybe a group of people that would provide the money. I think a lot of people are so sort of fed up with the situation at the club as it is, and we have stared into the dark abyss of what might be for Sheffield Wednesday going forward, that the idea of somebody else taking over and maybe throwing some money at it, as Uncle Dave used to talk about, there's almost a desperation for anybody and anything, any change being seen as a positive one. So there's criticism of Chansiri for turning down this offer that he may or may not have got for some money or no money from a man or a group of people. but such is the lovely atmosphere that's built up around the club and its various dealings. Some people are just willing to dive all in with the very, very tiny threads of information that we have.
Also, what is it, Rich, about a consortium that's such a trigger word for us Wednesdayites? Like, it's seemingly never kind of worked out to the fact that, especially also, we can remember kind of such a previous chancer such as Jeff Sheard. I remember one game where I went with my old work colleague Paul, and we sat in the south, and I distinctly remember around the time of Jeff Sheard being in the director's box, and my old work colleague Paul giving a thumbs up to Jeff Sheard and miming to him, "Get it done." Which merely isn't as embarrassing, which is maybe as embarrassing as what I said to Clinton Morrison that time when we met him. One day we might mention on the podcast, but I might just try and go to my grave, just kind of leaving that as one of the dirty little secrets of my life. So, Jeff Sheard, a man who made money through selling sock accessories. You know, this is obviously not the guy with the money, but somehow seemingly...
I'd forgotten that wonderful detail. Were they called soccer tabs?
Soccer ties.
Soccer ties.
No, I do love you saying soccer tabs, which could almost be... Because I love also calling soccer ties because it's a sock accessory.
Yes.
Like, you would never ever know think you need accessories for your socks. Could you imagine going to...
Soccer tabs could be a way of just concealing cigarettes.
That's what I was
maybe
thinking.
Cross the border.
Whoa. Keep my tabs in my socks. My soccer tabs.
The next big thing in sort of greaser technology after the rolled up white t-shirt sleeve is it's stuffing them in your socks. Oh, which also reminds me of Luke and I first met actually attending a boutique indie music festival called All Tomorrow's Parties. And one of the benefits for soft lads, as me and Luke, I would think would gladly sign up to the moniker of, there was no camping involved. So it happened in a Butlins or a Pontins. They were pretty agnostic when it came to the brand of holiday park that you were in.
Which holiday pronouns they identified by?
Yes.
Yeah.
Careful, Gina. They, but the downside. So the upside was you actually got for what it was worth. You got a bed, and you got a shower and things like that, which was quite civilized for festival going. But the downside was that they wanted you to buy your beer from their own outlets and didn't want you to bring in your own beer. So there was a challenge of sneaking as much beer as possible into the pavilion. I think a friend of ours got up to 13, but it was kind of so this is a beer in your hood, a beer in your pocket. Maybe you kind of tuck a jumper in and you get one in around your kind of waistband. Perhaps it was still borderline acceptable to wear cargo pants, so you might utilize some of those extra pockets on your trousers, and the living end of this all being sock beer, so cans of beer that you carried in your sock and walked the whatever it would be 500 yards or so from the chalet to the pavilion, and by the time you got in, your already warm to start with beer was really not in a very pleasant state. And I think Luke does have a picture of me drinking a sock beer by a pushy machine in the arcade. And the level of delight is really written all over my slightly sweaty face. It was a very unpleasant thing, drinking warm Carling that's rumbled around in your sock for 10-15 minutes.
So most of the pictures were like a touch sweaty of all of us, but Rich has made all the sweatier for the picture of him having a sweaty beer, sweaty man.
Sweaty beer out of a sweaty sock.
In a sweaty holiday park.
Yes. Sorry for the diversion, but it was a fun memory.
Yeah.
As is the fake over of Jeff Sheard, and definitely I think this is the best fake over since Jeff Sheard. I think that's fair to say.
I think it's good. I think maybe we have to look at some of the comedy behind this. And also Club 9 Sports. And by the way, folks, I didn't say Cloud 9 Sports, which would be a fun and enjoyable ragtag bunch of Superstore workers who got together. Superstores, NBC, Thursdays, 8:30 Eastern. Or maybe just this week, just binge watch all of it like I'm doing. Top stuff. Top comedy.
It is excellent. Yes.
It's a great
Highly
show.
recommend.
But anyway, Club 9 Sports, I believe they were called. They were another American one, though they actually seem to have a bit of chops to them. But again, all of these consortiums are all like...
Is that because they made a PDF that you think they had chops?
I think, was it Lee Strafford said they came over and asked about how good were the women's toilets? That's why they had some... And Lee Strafford was like, "Ooh, no one's ever asked that. They must be
They must be big noise. They're just perverts." Allegedly parody.
Allegedly. They were like, "Well, do you think they have enough space for us to install a series of cameras?" I'm imagining this is how the meeting went.
Yes, yeah.
But again, a consortium's like, "Well, oh, my mate's uncle has a lot of money. You know, yes, I don't have the money, but I know people."
I think that's what you're supposed to. It's supposed to conjure limitless resources, because who knows, you know, the consortia is this conglomerate of wonderful rich people. But generally what it tends to feel like it means is nobody in charge and no direct route to the money. And yeah, kind of it feels like you're kind of being managed at arm's length, I think, more often than not, if you're a club that's in that position.
Exactly. And I mean, we love a singular character who is moneyed, who can put his name all over the stadium like he's some kind of Thai Donald Trump. We love that. We love that at Sheffield Wednesday. So yeah, consortiums know owners who may be looking like from the outside like it's a big ego trip for them. Yes, please.
Well, I think we can understand. I think it's a more. Well, obviously, it has its downsides, and they are multivarious. But I think we can understand the driving thought behind it, and like I think the model of being a rich man's plaything, like many sort of 1920s Hollywood starlet, we can see why that's happening. You know, we are an ego outlet, you know, we're an ego feeding device for somebody that's got too much cash and gladly lap up all their lovely money and give them a chant or whatever. And it's a kind of, it's a symbiotic relationship that we can get our heads around. It maybe doesn't feel morally, it's maybe questionable, but on the face of it, it's like, okay, I get it. This person's got too much cash and we will gladly receive some of the overspill of their swimming pool full of pennies that they swim in like Scrooge McDuck. So that's fine. But a sort of consortium is more shady. You feel like it's probably a business interest thing. So we're putting money in to make money. That's a more difficult thing to do in football, particularly outside of the Premier League. It all just feels less. It's harder to get our head around. I think that's the thing. Two models of ownership, although both flawed in their nature. One of them you can go, oh yeah, I get that. And for most Wednesday fans, you know, a kind of pie in the sky if I won the Euro Millions or whatever, might well be, you know, if I've got £150 million, I might own Wednesday for a while. It's not going to be, I might invest in a faceless conglomerate of business people that owns Sheffield Wednesday or owns part of Sheffield Wednesday. That's slightly less exciting and straightforward.
I mean, I actually have had many dreams of doing the same, as I think a lot of Wednesday fans do. And then I often wonder, because I'm a man who doesn't really have any money, and, you know, I'd be very nouveau riche, but I'd probably be nouveau riche to the point that I don't quite understand how much money I have, and I'd be like, can I just live in the stadium? And some of the excellent staff would probably be like, no, Luke, that's really unprofessional and not a thing we can do. We can't turn doolies into a crash pad for you.
Well, now I know how to be taken seriously if you're starting those negotiations. What about the ladies' toilets? Oh, I see. Connoisseur. This is not the first bourbon biscuit that you've borrowed from a football team, I see. Well, I mean, we've had some weird run-ins actually in our time, because there was I'm blanking a little bit on the name, but was it Greg? Was the guy that we had Dave Allen bang that James Gregg? So that was a kind of fake over of sorts. You know, that was all in the news that he'd made this offer. And...
Is that the real James Gregg, or was that? Are you thinking? That sounds like some local sports journalist?
Maybe it is. Paul Gregg, was it? I don't know. Anyway, Greg. Mr. Gregg. Mr. Gregg.
Greg's the man.
Greg's the man. Mm-hmm. And then we had the don't know him, never heard of him press conference. Brilliant. And then we had, I guess, Cloud9 were next. No, not Cloud9. Club 9. Cloud9 Sports.
High pitch. They were run by the high pitched guy who used to be in Kids of the Hall. There we go.
I wonder what your toilet facilities look like, particularly the ladies. Exactly. It's just getting so inside on the Superstore, which is a show that nobody watches. Despite it being very good, nobody watches Superstore.
Exactly. But that's our podcast, Rich.
People.
That's our podcast. Let's be honest.
Then we had Jeff Sheard, and then obviously we had Land of Fire, Azerbaijan. We were taken over by the nation of Azerbaijan, if you remember.
And a chap who could drink a whole bottle of wine in a massive glass. That was it, wasn't it?
I don't remember that detail, but it is a lovely touch.
People pick up on these things, right? It's like, Erik Alonso selling PPE on LinkedIn.
Yeah. We've attracted a fair amount of chances, it's got to be said. So the other thing I don't know in this situation, and I have some sympathy for people that have just knee-jerk immediately gone, anything would be better than this, and therefore any route out is good. Because, well, who knows what the future looks like. But I also don't know that it's as simple as if somebody comes in, you start with a new slate. I don't think that's how it works with the EFL. It would be interesting to know what the kind of money situation would need to be to kind of pay off Chansiri and what he feels he's owed for the club.
Well, that's the interesting thing is obviously it's much like anything that's seemingly priceless. The value of it is what somebody will pay for it.
Yeah.
But then the problem is right now people are being like, well, in Wednesday's position, nobody should be turning down an offer of around circa £30 million. But then clearly it has a value to Mr. Chansiri.
I mean, legitimately, he could be looking at it. And I know it's a bit wrong-headed. It's not really how business works, but he paid something in the region of 30 million for the club, didn't he? That's what was sort of widely reported at the time. So to kind of clear the debts and buy the full shares in the club, he paid something in the region of 30 to 35 million. We've lost money every year since he came in.
Yeah.
Which may well add up to more than double that on its own. So he possibly is looking at things and going, well, I've put 90 million pounds in. That's what I want to be paid for the club. And that's just not going to happen. So it is a case of what does I suppose with the other thing, with Chansiri, we've got the worst of both worlds in that he is the one-man chairman, name emblazoned on the shirt and the stands, but also we're not quite sure where his money actually comes from because he personally is not rich enough to have made the investment. So he has money coming from somewhere. So it may be a case of actually it's not a decision that John Chansiri makes. It's somebody else sharing that surname might decide that actually, enough is enough. You've high time. You've spent enough on these Beanie Babies, and now you need to stop. You need to find a new hobby that costs me less money every year. Yeah, sort of. It gives a weird hope to have somebody potentially or make an offer or potentially make an offer for the club. I think Chansiri has said several times people are interested, but it's maybe nice to at least have it vaguely confirmed, although we don't know many of the details. because it increasingly feels like the only route out of a spiraling situation is somebody coming in and injecting some cash, as they say. Anything else on the takeover talk, or should we wander along to a new topic?
Let's wander us along to playing home to Wycombe.
Yeah, let's do that then. I was wondering whether we should just mention the fact that obviously the main focus today is going to be the Wycombe game, because we're not playing Swansea this weekend, called off because of snerr. But that it also naturally kind of comes in at the end of the game, because the weather just got worse and worse as that match came on, and it was almost a precursor to the fact that this weekend was going to be cancelled, was just how snowy and how quickly it came down towards the end of the Wycombe game. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's do this. We had a chance for a bit of revenge, because I think probably in a season full of defeats, no defeat has hurt quite as much as losing to Wycombe Wanderers earlier in the season. So we had a chance to sort of correct the record a little bit there. We made a fair few changes to the team. Well, not that many changes, but significant ones. So, and I think the main telling one was that Hutch moved into midfield. So, having been part of the back three in defence for the last couple of games, he moved.
That lineup against Wycombe really scared me. I was disappointed that Kachunga missed out. I really wanted to see more of that partnership kind of beginning to develop between Kachunga and Patterson.
Yeah.
But that was decided that he'd be dropped for Rhodes, which at the time I was like, I don't know.
And you said it in that voice as well.
A little bit, yeah. I was disappointed that Palmer and Penny missed out as well.
Yeah.
You know, that phrase that I hope the baby doesn't go out with the bathwater here.
Well, that's sort of the last thing we ended up talking about, wasn't it? That in the last game was this is an opportunity to make a few tweaks and changes, but we took those opportunities to grasp them with both hands, really. Handing starts to Harris, and Reach was at left wing back, so it's quite a bit of a change for him. And Shoei came in midfield. Thankfully, sort of playing that role that seems best suited to him, I think is the most attacking one in that midfield three. I don't really like him defensively in that three, although weirdly he is a centre back by reputation and trade. But yeah, Rhodes starting up top, which is a rare occurrence.
And usually what we find with Rhodes is that doesn't lead to they are bad roads.
Yeah,
they are very Black Country new roads, which are bad roads. As Rich and I detest that band.
Posh Kid Half-Fi. Yeah, it's I think you're right. I mean, normally it is cause for a little bit of a kind of sinking of expectations, because it doesn't normally amount to much. I also think, to be fair to Jordan Rhodes, how many times he's been paired up with an attacking partner is probably a fairly slim number of times, and particularly an attacking partner that is as strangely gifted as one Callum Patterson is. So it was a bit of a different day for him, and I don't know. What did you? I suppose it's worth. Now's as good a time as any. What did you make of Rhodes during the game? He played sort of fully 82 minutes of it.
Yeah, I thought he was largely all right, but I thought we obviously made some tweaks to kind of get a lot more value out of Jordan Rhodes in the game. It seemed to play a bit more to his advantages, and some of the rare gifts that we've seen from Jordan Rhodes, who's previously a very excellent player, but is going off the boil, and we're getting less rose juice out of him these days.
I wonder how much it was to do with it. Normally he, maybe overly simplistically, we think of sort of front partnerships up front as being variants on big man, little man. One guy is trying to win the header, and one guy is playing in behind. And I sort of feel like what benefited Jordan Rhodes today was, not today, it's a long way off, sorry, that's a force of habit. Midweek, what seemed to benefit Jordan Rhodes was almost, and so it makes me wonder how sustainable this is long term, but they almost sort of played one big man role between them. So we weren't asking him to run in behind.
Right. But that's also kind of the qualities of Jordan Rhodes, that he's never really he's a bit of everything, so he's kind of a bit of He's never particularly one of those roles, is he?
Yeah. So he ended up being like an additive on top of what Patterson was doing, and that seemed to be quite effective and efficient in most ways. And it might be interesting to see how it does against a team that is not as sort of lowly and generally in poor form as Wycombe, although they did pick up a win this weekend. Whether we try it against any other team is another matter, I suppose. But it was intriguing to see how it worked, because I think Jordan Rhodes, I don't know why I constantly refer to him by his full name. I'll stop, I promise. But he was doing lots. He wasn't just doing like leading the line things, which I think he's tended to do before. He's kind of played a limited role of simply stretching the defence and keeping the defence honest with just being a body, which he's intelligent and tactically disciplined enough to do. But he was getting involved. He was sort of stepping back and applying pressure defensively occasionally when he needed to. He was holding the ball up sometimes. He was moving the ball on effectively when other times he needed to. And then, he popped up. He was Johnny on the spot to grab the all-important first goal as well. So, as I say, we are, in a way, we are still carrying him. But this feels like a better way. Like, I don't know what the analogy is here, but maybe we've got like a little shopping trolley or something that we're pushing him around in. It's just a more efficient way to carry him, and we get the good bits. He can read a map. He can look out for potholes. Am I stretching this too far?
A Rhodes Granny shopping trolley, one of those things.
Yeah.
We just took him up in a little basket,
like a baby Yoda sat
like he's ET. I was going to say.
Yes. Jordy phone home. But let's sort of, we've got the benefit of this was a good performance. We get to sink our teeth into it a little bit more than we normally do with midweek games. So let's enjoy the opportunity that's presented to us. We started really, really well, I think, by and large.
I think so. Yeah, we still had the feeling of. I think when it wasn't working, I felt like we kind of wanted it a bit too hard. You could tell that there was very much that desire there, which is good, but it kind of felt, I don't know, I think I've seen this before, like the mentality from Wednesday that, hey, we want you to know that we're really trying to attack. We're really trying to do something in this game. I think it's still it's a bit more, it is a little bit different. It's a touch more kind of cultured under Thompson, I want to say. So I think it has more situations where it's more effective. It doesn't feel as belabored as it does under Gary Monk's time.
No.
It felt like a really, really, really strong, overlabored emphasis on we are trying to score, we are trying to attack under kind of Gary Monk.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's interesting because to kind of look and to think about one of our kind of star performers of recent games has been this kind of a slightly renewed, slightly kind of tweaked Kadeem Harris.
Yeah.
Kadeem Harris, who provided another assist. And again, it's that unique thing of him trying that kind of first early cross, as opposed to situations previously where he would do a lot of step overs and spend a lot of time to get it down to the line and do, as I think you put it brilliantly on last week's podcast, that sand wedge chip across.
Yes.
For whoever the striker is. And so the goal for Rhodes looks so basic and looks so simple, which I think is some of its beauty. I think it seemingly looks a bit effortless.
Yeah.
Including, like, I think a really, really good cushioned header from Jordan Rhodes himself. But that is a really, really great early kind of cross. Very simple. There feels a degree of like we're not overthinking things when we're getting forward, which I think was very much the standard under Gary Monk.
Yes, and I think that wouldn't have been helped by Tony Pulis's short time in charge of the club, because he had no faith in anyone. So if you've got one manager that's insisting on overthinking and doing the thinking for you, and you follow that up with a manager that doesn't have any faith in you whatsoever, that's a pretty bad combination. And I think there has to be a lot of praise for Thompson and Bullen, and also the players themselves for picking themselves up from that situation, because that must have been mentally quite a sort of roller coaster ride to go through. And I almost think that regardless of whether the man management from Tony Pulis was better behind closed doors, because what he was saying in public was, and frankly, it was shocking. I mean, I've never really heard a manager just so gleefully hurl his players under the bus as Tony Pulis did. It was reckless. It really, really was. I don't know what the game plan was, whether it was a wider thing to put pressure on.
Well, I thought the interesting thing about Pulis
Chansiri to make transfers.
The thing I thought would be a breath of fresh air, especially under that kind of mentality of attacking felt very overwrought and belabored under Gary Monk. I thought the mentality that we seemed to get through from Pulis himself, or, you know, his ethos that he was broadcasting to us as part of his PR, you know, through conferences and stuff, was that really it kind of just tries to make it as simple as possible for the attacking players.
Yeah.
You know, as part of the counter-attack after you've established such a shape. But I don't know whether did you think that kind of under when we played under Pulis, do you think there was maybe still a bit too much of an ethos? Do you reckon that was the ethos, or do you reckon like there was maybe a bit too much focus on trying to keep a shape even when getting forward? Or do you think that, I think to kind of back up your point here, Rich, like that had a real negative to do with the man management in total?
I don't know, because I mean, I must confess, I haven't spent a lot of time watching Tony Pulis teams play in the past. You know, it's not the game that you look forward to on Match of the Day. So
usually the last game of Match of the Day as well, and that's the point where you just think, let's go to bed. I'll be honest.
But I think there was a lot of like magical thinking from Gary Monk. I think we sort of had a plan for 2/3 up the pitch, and then it was sort of hoping something special happened and hoping something kind of more often than not it was Harris. Somebody like Harris pulls a rabbit out of a hat and we managed to score a goal. It didn't feel like we had I don't know, it didn't feel like there was a clear idea of how it's like, oh, this will get us here, and then how do we score? And I feel like whether this was just for us, a special little treat for us with Tony Pulis, but it just felt like he was wholly reliant on a piece of individual magic, because there was nothing. There was just no thought given to the process that gets you to scoring. And I think what happened, you know, the game against Wycombe was a lovely example of, I mean, it was obvious. So the lineup is you've got two wingers playing wing back, and the game plan is get the ball to those wingers and they'll put the ball in. There were so many crosses from Reach, so many crosses from Harris. They were generally good early crosses. It's the sort of thing that Jordan Rhodes likes. The sort of thing we've been getting told for 4 years. If we do that, he will score goals. And to be fair, he did grab a goal. I don't know how there were hugely. I don't know that he had sort of many chances outside of that, the one that he took, but it's just nice to. There's an identity to that. That's a way to play. You can't do it every week. I think we've been down the route of drowning Harris in the ball before so many times, and it's nice to see him, as I say, with this new lease of life. It's also nice to see him suddenly crossing early and getting results from it. I hope it feeds into his play. We did have a classic Harris moment, where he did take that extra time and that extra touch, and then boom, the ball 30 yards over the bar. So there is still the old self looming. But in terms of this new year, new you for Harris, it's really it's a real glow up sort of experience.
I'm also glad he really got an assist, because I felt me and you felt this on the 24th minute, that I think he was fortunate that he didn't concede a penalty.
Oh, massively. We should, that is worth talking about. There was a gamble being played with it feels. I'm now wondering. Sorry, this is I've got sort of three thoughts occurring simultaneously. So it reminded me of it was a break after our own set piece, which we nearly got caught out with. If you remember the penny incident last week, we almost got caught out with the same thing. The decision midweek that was baffling and more worrying as time went on was that Hutch was our last man at set pieces. So not only are we taking away someone who is a potential threat from the set piece, we've also got somebody who is a bit of a liability in terms of having a nibble and not the paciest in case they make a break. And the first time they broke from our corner, we were hugely lucky to get away with Harris fouling their man in the box and stopping him taking a shot, because it was sort of knee high. It was a bad tackle, and it looked bad in full speed. And then when you see it in slow motion from the other side, it's absolutely a penalty and I would think probably a red card. But I know that there's the double jeopardy rule, so he might have got away with just a yellow. But yeah, that was a big let off, and that was before we scored as well. That would have turned the game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We might have got lucky. I think the linesmen were particularly bad all game. There was some questionable decisions, and the ref was not brilliant. And maybe the fact that they just couldn't keep up with play saved our hides this time. Thankfully, we've had questionable penalties given against us in the past, so maybe this was one to kind of remember when we're in that situation, that we get the odd let off as well. But yeah, nice to see him make good on his on his reprieve, because he got his assist and it almost got kind of a second assist for the second goal as well. When he cleverly bounced it off Callum Patterson's shoulder to set up breach for the second goal. So I know you mentioned you had quite a few notes. I've sort of run through my main notes for the first half. Do you have anything else to touch on?
Well, let's just say I've got a lot of pithy notes as per usual. Rich and I were enjoying the sight of Akinfenwa stacked like a pack of girthy hobnobs.
Yes.
You know, I was commenting that it looked like a 14-year-old who put on like 20 t-shirts for like trying to go for the Guinness World Record.
or avoid a luggage charge on a long haul flight.
Exactly. Do you think Gareth Ainsworth likes rock music?
Oh, he might, Luke. He might.
And you know, you saw that from the jackets, the leather jacket. Before the fact, we saw that he had a GNR mask. I commented Ainsworth looking to squeeze a Motorhead tribute band gig in afterwards, hoping to hotfoot it to the Doncaster Dome very quickly after the match.
Managed, yeah. Wickham Wanderers managed by Saxondale. It's weird. I'm someone who I do not tend to dress well most of the time. I will say, you know, like I enjoy the fact that my my workplace is a place of relaxed workwear, but I think there is a time and a place for dressing differently. I think you have to dress to suit the occasion from time to time. And there is just something, there's something about Gareth Ainsworth on the touchline that brings out like the inner, I don't know whether it's a headmasterly part of me or a Tory part of me or something, but I just want to give him a shake and cut his hair and put a suit on him. At least, I mean, you can wear a tracksuit. You can be pretty relaxed in what you wear on touchline. You don't need to wear a suit. But there's just something about it. Just feels a bit pathetic. Apologies to people that live a rock lifestyle and maybe they love Gareth Ainsworth. They want him to be England manager. But for me, he just looks like a sad uncle. I can just imagine.
I think it's clear to say it's not to our taste, and it's kind of rubbed both of us a little bit, right?
I'm just imagining him at like the Rock Night. He's the oldest person there by about 20 years. He's leering at the young women. allegedly parody. But yeah, it's rubbed us up the wrong way. I think you have to be better than him to get away with being such a kind of standout person from what you wear.
Yeah, I know.
If you
I know.
Guardiola, I think Pep could get away with dressing like whatever because he's one of the most successful football managers that's ever lived. I think when you're Gareth Ainsworth, who probably your life is going to peak, your managerial career and probably and most of your footballing career is going to peak with that time that you got Wycombe Wanderers into the Championship for an embarrassing season where you lost almost every week. I just don't think you can pull it off, mate. But then maybe that's Zach and Fenway as well, like a big noise in a really kind of tin pot way.
Yeah, it feels. I don't know. I don't want to kind of shame him for his. I feel a bit weird about this. I don't know, but it's just, it's so strange and so odd.
It's like local personality, isn't it? I don't know. There's just something kind of. It's very local papers.
It's
at the parade today. The local rock man turned up. I don't know, just something about it. I don't know. Like you say, I do. It does make me feel a bit weird to sort of lay into it because he seems fine, and he's done a good job there. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a point worth making. It feels like he's making a point, and it's not a point I feel is particularly worth making. But there we go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Yeah, we've introduced a strange atmosphere to things, but let's.
We have. I mean, I kind of wanted to say, kind of, I guess, looking outside of that, looking at the pithy, weird comments. I also, let's just finish this off. I really hated that away kit that Wycombe had. I refer to as piggy jesters.
That's nice. And you particularly, Luke, I know this from our conversations during the match. That goalkeeping jersey really had a profound effect on you and your eyeballs.
It was very swizzle sticks, wasn't it? Actually, I said to you in a text comment,
it was like a competition winner or something.
Well, I said I imagined it's kind of like a sketch comedy sketch about how bad goalkeepers' jerseys are. It's really a parody off of Nice. And I said, I'm imagining a sketch now, which is David James, David Seaman, and Steve Agrizovic, are all going out for a night out, and there's a joke that they're trying to really outdo each other with like their garish goalkeeper shirt that they're going to go out on the town with.
Good old David Seaman. He could pull it off, I reckon, though.
It weirdly feels like all the things we're talking about is kind of a bit like, it feels like Wycombe are trying to assemble kind of a bunch of characters and a bunch of kind of traits that they think are kind of recognized within football, I don't know. They were...
Well, one thing I noticed, particularly as the many subs started to happen in that second half, is they really, really have provided a sort of halfway house for Reading players about to be released from custody.
Yes.
Gareth Ainsworth, the kindly rocker that looks after these waifs and strays from Reading. Treats each of them like his own. But yeah, just so many names that we used to play for Reading just pitching up, either starting or coming off the bench. Really incredible. I know it's only just up the road, but just very, a retirement home for ex-Reading players, or a kind of stop on the road to retirement home.
Yeah, I liked how you talked about it like it's a new housing estate on the motorway. Yes. Like, if you played here, you'd be in League One by now.
Yes.
I think you said. Yeah.
Life in the upper middle of the Championship getting you down? Is it too competitive? Try life at Wycombe. We're comfortably in League One. It's all important, equidistant from London. Probably has the same. You get the same sort of transport links that you know and love, but the expectations are so much lower. It's a great place to go if you are 30-something and are leaving Reading.
Sign up today for our free railcard offer. So, I don't know. I feel like maybe I've just been incredibly disrespectful. I mean, it's a Wycombe. But I thought it was funny because I sent you a message. I think it was BBC Sport at halftime on their webpage, and I actually took a screen grab of this. Wickham have responded well since going a goal behind. I'm like, no, they were really bad. They were really bad. You're trying to make a narrative here, but the narrative is just that Wickham are a very poor side.
This will be, there were, when did we get promoted? So was that 2015, 6? No, it was a couple of seasons before. But basically, like, this is as high as Wickham have ever been. And I feel like there's been a kind of lovely holiday vibe to the whole approach to it from the team and from any fans I've had any brushes with on social media. They're just kind of, it's nice little visit up to the Championship. We'll be back down to yo-yoing between League One and League Two as soon as you know it. But let's just take in the sights, see a few new grounds. I don't bear them any ill. It's
no
good. I mean, good on you if you're a Wickham fan. It's I'm sure it's a tough go round, but I think that sort of it was nice to have this game. So we got the second goal, which made things much more comfortable towards the end, which came off the back of it was sort of a corner that was headed back out to Harris, wasn't it? And then Harris ran around, took a shot, hit it against Patterson, and from that rebound reach, looked like he was smashing it into the top right-hand corner, and it ended up going into the bottom left-hand corner and left the goalkeeper with absolutely no chance to save it, which was a huge sigh of relief. As you say, Wickham's recovery hadn't amounted to much, but it meant that whatever little shoots of recovery were well and truly sort of trodden on, and the ground was salted, and a win was coming our way, which was nice. But it was a comfortable performance. It was the sort of performance we expected to see against them last time round.
Yeah,
and nice to see us just do it and not huff and puff too much. They did have their moments. We did have the penalty that could have been. One of my highlights of the game was Tom Lee's on the overlap twice. I really liked that, seeing him feeling like confident enough to burst forward and offer himself down the flank. But yeah, mostly it's just got to be good things, hasn't it, from this game?
Totally. I mean, that just going ahead and doing the task that you thought you did sometime is thankless, but I think we just did it in a very professional way. We seem very assured. Yeah, there's nothing but positives about this. And a big game, a big 3 points we needed. We did briefly get ourselves out of the relegation zone. We're back in it now. But it's nice to just have those moments to just come up for air, basically, of just being submerged in this for I don't know how long now. This is probably the second time.
Especially given the start of the season with our... second time, especially given the start of the season with our points deduction of 12. Knowing that we are so close to kind of the surface of the water in terms of that relegation battle, I think you need those little glimmers of hope, those little shards of daylight to keep pushing, because I'm sure to an extent the players will feel like they're right. They've had a much more successful season or a marginally more successful season than the league table is telling them. Points deductions are the only area where the league table doesn't tell the whole story, but I guess we've got an asterisk next to our name for that purpose. But it's not a huge leap, but we're having a season that should put us in 16th place, and at the moment we're 22nd, 23rd with those the same level of performance because of that points deduction. So to an extent, the players will be feeling like we should be almost a game or two from being comfortable in mid-table.
Yes.
But we're obviously not. But it's getting closer. There might be a bit of breathing room at some point if we can continue to win the games we're supposed to, turn up when we're supposed to and win the games when we're supposed to. And it was just nice to see Wednesday do it, because so often we don't. It would have been much more typically Wednesday to lose to Wickham and then beat Swansea this weekend. So it's an odd feeling to have done the bit we were supposed to and then have the game called off, to not know how we were going to end this important week. Any other bits and pieces from the game, Luke?
No, I think that's it.
I mean, we were lucky. It has to be said, I think we were lucky that we were 2-0 up when the weather started to really get bad.
Yes.
Because it was very, very much the sort of game that could have got called off. If we'd kicked off at the sort of standard evening kickoff time of 7:45, there's a very good chance we wouldn't have got to finish that game, and it would have been very, very frustrating. So I think we were lucky. We were probably within 15, 20 minutes of not being able to finish the game and having it called off because of the snow belting down. And it's sort of fun to see football played in that, but it's really rare nowadays. Players do not play on white pitches anymore. So it is kind of fun to see it happen, especially when you're winning 2-0. That's the best time for it to happen.
I agree. Yeah.
Did you notice? I just did on a sort of rewatch. Did you notice who Wycombe Wanderers have as their sponsor?
It's just Cherry Red Records.
Cherry Red Records, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Label has released recordings by Dead Kennedys, Everything But the Girl, the Monochrome Set, and Felt, amongst others.
Wow.
They had Mark Altman on the roster.
Iconic, but more iconic than any of their kits. Apart from maybe the home one, which is fine. But the away is a real eyesore.
Susie Quattro, the Runaways. Yeah, well, it's fun to have a different sort of sponsor, isn't it? I'm guessing that's a kind of passion project from one of the owners of the of the of the record label. I can't imagine they're getting a huge amount of business off the back of their Wycombe Wanderers sponsorship. Although there was a story, I think Stevenage was sponsored by Burger King because one of the Burger King sort of advertising teams figured that if they sponsored the worst team on FIFA,
yes,
lots of people would play as them, so they'd get loads of impressions for what that's what they talk about in digital advertising. So they get loads of impressions because loads of people will pick them as the worst team on FIFA, or the worst English team on FIFA at the very least. So yeah, maybe that's what Cherry Red Records are doing. We'll sponsor the worst team in the championship. I don't know how the plan ends, but good on them. Do we want to? Normally we would pick a kind of star player or give some honourable mentions in this position.
I think we should pick Harris, just because I think it's been a really good series of games, and I think he needs to be deserved and needs to be recognised.
It's also nice to see somebody respond positively to some time out away from the first team. He's not had to get up to speed. He's sort of returned at speed and got the bit between his teeth. He wants to make that place in the side his own. That's a nice thing to see. Yeah, lovely. Very good work from Kadeem Harris. Nice to see him back. Nice to see him enjoying his football again, because he looked like a man with the weight of the world on his shoulders. It has to be said for a time. Well, there we go. That's different gravy. And yeah, we know the end of the week was that we don't end up playing Swansea, and it's going to be interesting to see where we end up squeezing that game in, because the games that are coming thick and fast. Did you work out when the window was, Luke, for the next one?
I think I initially saw that mid-April was probably the soonest that we can play another game of football. But I think it's mid-March.
Yeah, there's an international.
Well, there's one right at the end of March. That's the 27th.
Right. Okay.
But then for some reason, I think the week, that midweek after between the 6th and the 13th, we don't seem to be playing another game. I'm unsure as to why that's a date that's not going to work. Maybe Swansea have got a rescheduled game for that time. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's going to be a while. But the games are still thick and fast. We
play Cardiff on the Monday. Is this? Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at April. Sorry. Shoddy. Oh yeah, interesting. As you say, maybe Swansea have got a game there. But it'll be intriguing to see where that gets squeezed in for us. And I mean, Swansea's, I think, a tough game, regardless of when it fits in. It'd be nice if it fitted in nicely, in a good place for us in terms of our flow and our form. I don't know when that might be, when we've got a favourable run of fixtures, but it'd be good to have a sort of run up to that one, wouldn't it?
Indeed, yeah. And this forthcoming week, we've got we're away at Stoke, and then home to Birmingham. So
Yeah.
a big week. I think we could probably do quite well against Stoke. Stoke are typically quite, but they seem to be in not particularly great form right now. So there might be an opportunity to capitalise. And then home to Birmingham's the game we really need to be taking 3 points from.
Yeah, Stoke haven't won in 6 games, and Birmingham haven't won any of their last 5, and they've lost 3 of those last 5. So 2 teams in considerably poorer form than we are going into the game. So it would be nice if we could grasp the nettle and see this as an opportunity to add points rather than backing in slowly and hoping for the best, which seems to have been approached through most of the season. This is an opportunity to hopefully get some more points on the board, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do have we've got Brentford after that, so that it would be good to get the points before we wander into that one. Great. Well, there we go. I want to wish everyone a good week ahead, and same to you, Luke, and say cheerio.
Have a great week, everyone. Have a good one, Rich.
See you. Bye.